Good evening and welcome to this workshop of the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County. Tonight, the board will receive information from Anne Arundel County Public Schools staff related to the fiscal year 27 CIP and capital budget workshop. Tonight's workshop is open to the public, but no public questions or comments will be taken. The board will host a public hearing on the fiscal year 27 CIP and capital budget on Wednesday, September 17th. That'll begin at about 6:30 p.m. during the board meeting. This workshop is being broadcast live on AACPS TV, which can be found on channel 96 on Comcast and Astound, and channel 36 on Verizon. High definition broadcast can be seen on channel 996 on Comcast, channel 496 on Astound, and channel 2136 on Verizon. The workshop can also be viewed live on AACPS's YouTube channel. So thanks to everyone for joining us. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to the board and community members who may be viewing virtually. I wanted to just start off by, again, you all had an opportunity to go over some of this with the board at the last board meeting. And so we have an opportunity to go into greater detail on presenting to the board and the community the FY 2027 capital budget and capital improvement program. So I do want to thank the two of you. I think the work has been phenomenal over my first 3 years, and I want to thank you all in advance. Looking forward to this presentation. Pass it over to Bill Heiser and Kyle Roof.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell, President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, and members of the board. My name is Bill Heiser, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of AACPS, and I'm joined by my colleague,
Kyle Roof, Executive Director of Facilities.
Great. And this presentation outlines the superintendent's recommendation FY 2027 capital budget and capital improvement program. Before we dive into our presentation, here's a quick guide to acronyms used throughout the presentation. These terms like CIP, EFMP, and FCI are foundational to understanding our planning and funding processes. So I'll take a moment to pause so that you can look those over. Today's agenda covers 5 major areas: strategic plan priority 5, the APA performance standards and budget goals, CIP process, CIP issues and variables, and an overview of the FY27 CIP request. We'll walk through each and provide clarity and context for each of those areas. Priority 5 of our strategic plan focuses on building and sustaining our future. It's about ensuring safe, secure, and well-maintained facilities while managing resources wisely. This priority directly supports our mission to help every student and staff member belong, grow, and succeed. The facility conditions directly impact student achievement, behavior of our students, and safety. Key factors that we consider: such things as air conditioning, lighting, acoustics, natural light, and cleanliness of our facilities. All of these elements influence student achievement, attendance, and overall climate. This has been a priority in our strategic plan and a focus for our facilities division. AACPS manages 130 facilities across 3,000 plus acres. Our buildings average 30 years in age with a replacement value of $8.2 billion. We rank 3rd statewide in facility condition index, an indicator of aging infrastructure, which this number is a testament to our facility division and how much care and pride we take in maintaining our facilities. The chart that you see on the screen shows the average age of facilities across all of the Maryland LEAs. AACPS is aligned with the statewide average of 30 years. As you see, we are in red. Aging facilities require strategic investment to maintain performance of all of our buildings. It's something that we keenly focus on. APA performance standard and budget goals. APA level 2 is our target for maintenance, custodial, and grounds operation that represents comprehensive stewardship and ordinary tidiness of our facilities. Achieving this level requires consistent funding and planning. And as you see from the line graph, it's not easy to do. It illustrates that as facilities age, the FCI also increases, but we're aiming for a level 2 in that area. Our current funding falls short of APA level 2 targets. This came up in a previous board meeting. FY26 budget was $257.4 million versus the target of $288 million to $329 million, which that's what level we need to be achieved. In FY26, our budget fell short $30 million of the minimum goals, which is 3.5% of the total CRV. This gap, as was pointed out earlier, affects our ability to maintain facilities at optimal levels. I do want to go through the CIP process, and here's a timeline for that process. It shows an overview of the development and approval cycle. Development of the CIP starts in July and builds off previously approved CIP. By August, a draft is presented for internal review, and the product is presented in September to the Board of Education, which we did at the last meeting. And we have a briefing, this workshop, followed by a hearing to hear from the public, and then initial approval at the second board meeting of the month. The document is supported in forms are then sent to the IAC, the Interagency Commission on School Construction, in early October. So it's a long process, and staff at the IAC then perform a review of the material and provide comments for response. Our hope is by Thanksgiving. 75% recommendations are provided by the IAC in December. And then in February, the Board of Education votes on approving the CIP to move to the county executive. 90% IAC recommendations are provided, and we hold a meeting with the county's planning advisory board. In the first week of May, we received the county executive's budget recommendation and 100% from the IAC. Finally, in June, the county council votes on the budget, and it is adopted by the Board of Education. A long, long process. The CIP process, various state funding milestones are required for project approval. It's important to go through these. Feasibility studies are required for most renovations or replacement projects. This is essential local validation of the project and a scope of work document. And this document is reviewed by the state, but funding is not approved at this level. Local planning, or also known as LP, approval is usually provided after the state receives the design development documents. This represents 60% design, and local planning is a way for the IAC to say they support the project without guaranteeing funding in a fiscal year. And then the final step is construction funding approval. Construction funding approval can occur in the same fiscal year as LP or in separate years. This depends on availability and our strategy to maximize our state funding requests. The level of funding is driven by calculations based on age, condition, programs, and capacity. On average, we receive about 25% state funding support on traditional large IAC capital projects and 50% on systemic projects. These participation percentages has increased over the prior 2 fiscal years due to the availability of built-to-learn funding provided through the Maryland Stadium Authority and adjustments in IAC funding to allow additional eligible expenses. The major issues we are facing and variables: overall funding revenue and sources, the predictability of funding stream, and the increase in regulatory and environmental compliance costs. We have new and revised building codes. We have new and revised program standards by state, new and revised sustainability and environmental requirements. Availability of qualified contractors and laborers, which also came up in a previous board meeting, is also a variable that we need to keep an eye on. And the increase in material prices and supply chain disruptions that occur throughout the economy.
So capital funding has traditionally been distributed across 4 primary sources: reverted funds representing 4%. These are unused or unallocated funds returned from previous projects. Typically, we return about $7.5 million annually from prior projects. IAC funding, these are allocations from the Interagency Commission on School Construction and represent state-level resources for dedicated projects. Then we have county funding, which is supplied by Anne Arundel County government, and it's historically the largest share of AACPS's capital funds. And then we have alternative funding. These are revenues from grants or other non-traditional time-limited resources. That includes BTL funding over the last couple of years. Since FY24, AACPS's capital funding landscape has undergone notable changes. The system's reliance on the largest and most stable source, county funding, has diminished as the proportion of alternative funding has increased. Simultaneously, state funding from the IAC has not kept pace with the rising needs, prompting AACPS to seek out and depend more heavily on alternative revenue streams. Key drivers of this shift include constrained county budgets, unpredictable state allocations, and the emergence of new alternative funding opportunities during and after the pandemic. As AACPS enters fiscal year, as we entered in fiscal year 26, much of the alternative funding that had been previously used to help us stabilize the capital budget had begun to phase out. Simultaneously, there are no projected increases in either the county or the IAC funding for FY27, signaling a potential shortfall in available resources and needed projects. With traditional funding sources remaining flat and alternative funds contracting, the district faces a pivotal moment in sustaining and advancing its capital program. The shifting capital funding environment for AACPS underscores the importance of adaptability and proactive partnerships. As traditional sources stabilize or shrink and temporary alternative funding sources phase out, AACPS must seek both renewed commitments from established partners and innovate to uncover new streams of revenue. This strategic approach will be essential for ensuring the district's infrastructure continues to meet the evolving needs of the students, staff, and broader community. In FY27, the Interagency Commission on School Construction is projected to allocate only $20.9 million to Anne Arundel County, a dramatic decline from its historical average of $39 million. This reduction highlights a broader trend. Funding is no longer distributed based on student enrollment as it was for decades. Instead, LEAs like Baltimore City and Prince George's County are receiving larger shares, reinforced by additional, outside the CIP process, standalone capital programs to support their LEAs, while other counties, including AACPS, receive less than expected. This marks a significant departure from established practices and introduces unpredictability in funding allocations. The shift away from a transparent, enrollment-driven model has immediate consequences for affected counties, including project delays, budgetary stress, and challenges in long-term planning. To restore trust and foster investment in educational infrastructure across the state, it's essential that the IAC reestablished a balanced approach to consider the needs of each county. One of the largest issues we face from a funding standpoint is inflation and escalation of prices. Each year, the Interagency Commission on School Construction adjusts the dollar per gross square foot cost to construct a building. These are based on both trend data from nationally recognized cost escalators as well as actual costs for construction in the state. The cumulative percent increase is noted in blue. From the chart, you can see that since 2015, construction unit prices have increased over 86%. In 2015, the unit cost for a building and site improvements was $250 per gross square foot, while in 2026, we're looking at $513 for that same square foot. This effectively means the state is funding less than 1/2 of the work that we were funded over the prior decade. Inflation also has a significant effect on county funding for capital projects. With most years, we're seeing funding levels that lag behind rising costs. The bridge to gap the county has increasingly relied on alternative funding sources, both during FY26 and FY23 on the screen, when notable dips in the county allocations led to large draws from the BTL funding to support the Old Mill Master Plan. This stopgap measure, however, is not a viable long-term solution as the BTL program is ending. The predictability of IAC funding and various program hurdles being put in place to receive the few available dollars is putting more stress for reliable county allocations. Without a new dependable state funding source, the county will need to increase its own investment to maintain the current facility inventory. Transparent engagement with our county partners will be required to maintain progress. So this year's budget, we are requesting $230 million. This is an increase of $34 million from FY26 of the approved budget. The money will be used to support $164 million in major capital projects and $66 million in reoccurring projects. So the first project we want to talk about is the school bus facility and lot. The school bus facility and lot is to combine the Waterford and Millersville offices and to build one maintenance, parking, and training facility in one single location. The $6.5 million requested in FY27 would provide funding for the design and partial construction for the project. We are currently working with our county partners to procure a property for this project. Alda K and Pre-K, our $9 million request is for renovating a renovation project at Marley Glen. We are also seeking state funding for Carver Pre-K renovation. Construction documents will be completed at the end of September, with construction scheduled to start in November for a 120-seat early education center that would open in 26-27. Old Mill High School project will utilize the same prototype design as Severn Run High School and Crofton High School. The school is currently under construction at the Old Mill complex. Our request is for $71 million split between local and state funds. The school is scheduled to be occupied for the 28-29 school year. Old Mill Middle School North will utilize the same prototype design as Old Mill Middle School South. The school will be located at the current CAT North site on Stevenson Road. Our request is for $48.2 million. Construction documents are anticipated to be completed this fall. Pending funding approval, the school will be occupied for the 28-29 school year. Ruth Parker Eason project aims to replace the current developmental center with a new facility, also located on Stevenson Road at the CAT site. By co-locating with Quarterfield and Old Mill Middle School North, the innovative project will provide elementary and middle school students with educational opportunities, while students aged 16 to 21 will transition to Severn Run High School for an age-appropriate programming there. Early collaboration has already occurred between AACPS and MSDE's Office of Special Education, resulting in a letter of support for this project. The request is for $4.6 million in FY27 to begin the feasibility study and early design work. Rivera Beach Elementary School, last renovated in 1971, now has a modified age of 48 years and faces significant infrastructure challenges. With approximately $10 million in capital renewal needs, the school requires upgrades across essential systems, classrooms, and accessible features to provide an effective learning environment for students and staff. To address these issues, a request for $3.9 million is being submitted for fiscal year 27 to fund a feasibility study and initial design phase work for a renewal project. This investment will allow an assessment and planning to take place, setting the stage for an updated or replacement facility. Van Bachlen Elementary School has a modified age of 46 years. With recent enhancements to the existing building, a feasibility study will review constructing a new replacement facility on the current campus to provide an effective learning environment for both students and staff. The existing facility could then be repurposed as an early education center, addressing a significant need for resources within the Meade cluster. The annex building at Glendale Elementary School was left untouched during the school's replacement project in 2001. Although Glendale's student catchment area population has remained stable, there is a need for additional space to support the regional special education programming at that facility. The annex, now approximately 55 years old, is a solution to address these needs, offering additional space and ensuring that the school can continue to provide high-quality learning environments for all students. To move this initiative forward, a fiscal year 27 request for $2.8 million is being submitted. Consistent with other large systemic projects executed by AACPS, the Southern High School project will address the growing capital renewal needs at the school. The project will evaluate opportunities to improve both the physical environment and functional aspects of the building. AACPS has allocated project program funding in FY26 to facilitate a scope study. The funding request in 27 is set at $7.4 million to begin the design phase. Similar to Southern High School's project, the Northeast Middle School Systemic Renovation Project will target capital renewal needs and assess ways to enhance the facility's physical and functional elements. AACPS has budgeted a scope study in FY26 using that same project program funding, and a $5.1 million request is being made for 27 to start the design. On the screen are a few of our reoccurring capital programs that represent about $66 million worth of requests in FY27. Some notable projects to run through: the $31.4 million request for systemic renovations includes several capital renewal projects with a heavy emphasis on HVAC and roof projects. It should be noted that HVAC and roof projects represent the largest single categories in the CMP, the Comprehensive Maintenance Plan. Over the next 10 years, we estimate approximately $350 million worth of needs to be allocated towards HVAC systems and roofs and the existing inventory. Maintenance backlog, our $8 million request, is for smaller capital renewal programs such as generators, smaller MEP projects, mechanical, electrical, or plumbing projects, replacement door, windows, and finish projects. Roof replacements, the $7 million request is prioritized on roof condition and is a locally funded program. This helps us advance projects that aren't funded by the state. The fund is used to make sure that we're keeping it opportunity to also have matching funds for healthy school funding programs that are alternative funding sources. Relocatable classrooms, an $800,000 request is being made for constructing or renovating relocatable classrooms at schools that are overutilized. We're hoping that the redistricting effort helps minimize that. Asbestos removal, our $600,000 request includes removal of asbestos floor tiles, insulation, soffit panels, and doors. Approximately 50% of our schools still contain some forms of asbestos and building materials, and this program allows us to systematically remove those. Barrier-free, a $1 million request is for ADA modification and elevator upgrades. This project request is increasing from last year's in response to a program ending at the state level. So the aging school program at the state was ended last year, and this is, we're increasing this to continue with funding for those resources. School bus replacement, $2.1 million is for cyclical renewal of school buses, expansion of alternative vehicle program, and for electrification of the school infrastructure for school buses. Health room modifications, $400,000 request for health room modifications that are prioritized by the county health department. School furniture, $650,000 includes replacement of worn or broken furniture and to supplement classroom furniture for increased class enrollments. Upgrade various schools, $1.2 million is being requested for modifications based on program needs and aging facilities. Vehicle replacement, a request is for $500,000 to replace aging fleet vehicles. This includes our dump trucks, box trucks, backhoes, and vans that we use in the facilities division. Playground equipment, the priority list is used to develop and replace aged equipment. Includes a number of structures and a variety of schools that we replace those at. Athletic stadiums, we're increasing our request this year to $5 million. The money will be used for lighting, bleachers, track enhancements, lighting upgrades, and turf renewals at all secondary schools, including middle schools. Driveway and parking lot improvement, $1.5 million is being requested to safely make improvements at our school parking lots.
That concludes our presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we're gonna go by roll call order this evening. Ms. McDermott. Any questions? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Silkworth. Just one question so far. For the playground equipment improvements, I know a lot of families probably see equipment at their schools and think, okay, our school is probably due for some equipment renewal around here. What does it look like to get on that list? How do schools get on that list? Any details for that?
Playgrounds are listed in the comprehensive maintenance plan. So each year we go out, we review, inspect, and we evaluate each of the playgrounds and we put them in priority order. What we can replace, the money allocated essentially replaces 2 playgrounds. So that's 2 separate playgrounds. It's not 2 playgrounds at each school. It's just 2 separate playgrounds.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Pulliam.
Pulliam?
Ms. Pulliam.
Okay, so I have one question, one, the recurring project slide, when I think you mentioned that we have roughly 50% remaining of asbestos throughout our school. Is that like an annual checkup that you do? And then based on that changes? Because is that something that's all we have in terms of our schools, or is this a recurring assessment that you do, and this is where we are now with our assessment? And I guess what I'm really asking, in the previous year, were you able to get as much as you can, and then this year we still have 50% remaining?
I think it's important to understand that not every item within those 50% schools is related to asbestos. Throughout every project that we do, we try to take advantage of the money that's allocated to address some of the asbestos needs in those schools. Some of the needs haven't been touched because we haven't addressed that portion of the building yet. So it shouldn't be viewed that there's large pervasive issues out there. But when we do replacement buildings, when we do capital renewals, we try to address those in addition to the 600,000 that's in this.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that clarification. So when the next question I have, and then I'll pass it over. For the Southern High School systemic renovation, I've received lots of questions about that, what that really means. And you mentioned the physical and functional assessment or the school. Can you just provide a little bit more information what that really means, and like what are examples of that, so that the constituents can hear? Because that's been a recurring question. What does that mean? How can we help come and testify? But there's still it's just not clear exactly what that means, so that they understand.
Yeah, I think right now we're going through that scope study. So we'll be able to determine what the actual cost is for each one of the capital renewal needs. So the systemic project, the major purpose of that is to replace aging and declining systems within the building. So that's our first and foremost priority with that. The next opportunity that we have is we can add alternates to help enhance the physical appearance of the building and also contribute that to the project. So what we've done on other larger projects, including Bates Middle School, Annapolis Middle School, North County High School, those have been large systemics. We're also doing Lindale Middle School right now. So one of the biggest impacts that we've seen in those projects is lighting upgrades to enhance the appearance of the building through enhancements with LED lighting instead of the old fluorescent bulbs, getting rid of those warm lighting and actually put some nice cool lighting that helps the learning environment. In addition to some of these other projects, we're looking at other program enhancements that we could do to help improve the physical environment for the students. And we'll see how much money is left over to be able to do that.
Okay, I just want to set realistic expectations that when they hear the word renovation, they're thinking do it yourself, or they're thinking at HGTV. It's not necessarily at first the scope is part of the big first step. Then you see exactly what those areas are. And then if there's remaining, the beautification, if you will, would be last. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
essentially, we take these buildings in phases. So we'll take certain portions of the building offline, be able to do the renovation. It's going to be a phased occupied renovation. We've done that successfully at North County High School, a large high school with, at the time, was 2,500 students. So very confident that we can do the same at Southern.
Thank you so much. I just didn't want to, I wanted to make sure we set expectations. Thank you.
I do want to emphasize just how important, you just mentioned lighting, because we've seen what a difference it's made at Bates. And during our visits, for example, Northeast is on this list as well for systemics, and we've visited that each and every year, and much needed attention, what a difference that can make in terms of the climate of the school. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Roof.
I'm just thankful for any help that we can get at Southern High School. So thank you. I know it's not on the top list for a new school, but any type of improvement is we're very thankful. Thank you.
Ms. Shawan.
Yes, thank you as always for a great presentation. I appreciate it. Referring to slide 23 about Ruth Parker Eason, you said that this project's going to be completed at the current Cat North land. So then I'm assuming you have a plan. What's going to happen with the existing building? What's all that, assuming that we get fully funded funding partners?
So
Fully funded.
we're also seeing a tremendous need for pre-K in the
Got it.
Old Mill area.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
So kind of the key driver with our capital improvement plan over the next 6 years is to try to repurpose as many buildings as we can in key strategic areas to take advantage of existing infrastructure.
Which is great. So we don't have like kindergarten additions taking 15 years. This is right. So I like the strategy. I'm here for it. I want to bring it back to, because the timeliness of this presentation with the other fun topic we're talking about this week, yay, redistricting. Can you illuminate for all of us sitting here and listening at home what it means in terms of achieving the most capital funding we can get based on our redistricting exercises? And is our ability to get that money, does it affect some categories more than others on that priority list? Is it the whole kit and caboodle? Just so folks understand the importance of the exercise happening later this week.
So I think there's two different things. So we approach the state funding for capital projects in two different ways. So we have systemic projects, which are largely capital renewal programs for HVAC, lighting, PA systems, things like that. We have to be at least 60% capacity is the rule to get state funding on those projects. It becomes even more of an issue when you start looking at replacement or renovation projects, where now they're not just looking at that single school, they're looking at all adjacent schools around you. So if you are at 100%, but your neighbor is at 60, those 40% available seats will count against you for funding.
That's an important reminder for all of us to hear as we move forward. because there's a fair number of projects on the CIP every year that are important to each of our individual districts, important to students across the county. So we just need to be mindful of that as we move forward. Thank you.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you so much for this. Building maintenance, capital improvements are one of those things that nobody really notices until something goes wrong. So your work is very much appreciated, because without our lights and our HVAC and all the things that you do, our students couldn't learn. So I appreciate that. My question, I've had some questions from the public, and if you could just kind of speak to that for them. The feasibility and design phase does carry a hefty price tag in the public's eye. Can you kind of explain what goes into that phase?
Sure. So the feasibility study is typical for any project that we're looking to do a renovation or a replacement on. We basically look at alternatives and see which one is the best option for the school district. So we look at, should we renovate the existing building, add an addition? Should we just replace it? And usually that replacement is on-site behind the current school. Or we look at, should we really be doing just a systemic project? Should we be doing a paint and patch, which is everything in the building is kind of okay, and we can just do some cosmetic. The other alternative is do nothing. We always look at a do nothing scenario. So the money, the price tag that you're seeing on these not only gets it through the feasibility portion of it, but it allows us to then advance to the design portion as soon as the decision is made by the board.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Mr. Morgan.
Thank you for the presentation. And the one question I had got asked and answered. So another question I have is, and just kind of more speaking more to referring to slide 19, the school bus facility lot. I guess a little more on that. So we're like moving both of them into one, or adding another facility, or how does that? What's the
Yeah,
process
so
for that?
it all depends on the amount of land that we're able to purchase. Land is in a high need in this county, and warehouse land is even at more of a premium than residential. Ideal solution is that we will find a location where we can get rid of the lease that we currently hold at Waterford, move that to a bus facility that we own, and would have the ability in the future to put in infrastructure if we needed for electrification of buses. Also have our maintenance facility, and then potentially move our office location, which is in Millersville right now, and that building is in desperate need of some assistance. So we're very close. Bill and I have been working very close with our county partners, and we feel like we will have something shortly to share with you.
And I'll just add on, one, to not be in a situation where we're having a lease is huge. To have flat out ownership where that property belongs to AACPS is where we should be heading. The other piece of that is, depending on the amount of acres that we're able to get, as we talk about our district continuing to grow, it's a conversation I've been having with Bill and the team around how do we have more ownership over our own livelihood as it pertains to transportation, and not necessarily being so dependent on, we're going to continue to outsource because we're good partners within our community. But as we experience growth, we also, I think, need to have a little bit more skin in the game. And if we are able to get more acres, that gives us the opportunity to handle the potential future growth of this school district a little bit more internally.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Dent.
Always a great briefing. Thank you all very much for all the work that you put into it. I know that you guys are doing a lot of construction, so for you, that's a great idea. My question is about the number and the dollars here. So we keep talking about the 33 million deficit that we're getting from request what we need, right? 288 million versus what we had, 230 million was what request for this year. Okay, so I don't know, that's just a long way. So how do we make this up? Or do we make it up? I guess the right word is.
It's going to take time to make it up. And the time, jumping $30 million in a year is a big ask.
Right.
Especially when that ask is going to be heavily put on the shoulders of the county. So it's going to be an incremental increase. If you look at the 6-year plan, we are moving up to the 250, 260 range by the time that this 6-year plan is up. We also have an opportunity to look at the operating budget to help meet that gap with APA 2 funding. So APA looks at not only the operating expenses used for capital renewal and maintenance costs, but it also looks at the capital needs as well. So looking at those two categories is how we're going to bridge that gap.
And then my last question is, I see a lot of zeros for the state. So is it not traditional that the state provides some funding for capital budgets?
So the state program is on page 3 of the capital budget. And we are going to be requesting 75. So the top graph is this current year's request on the exhibit for Wednesday's meeting. So the top is this year's, the bottom is for the out years. So this year we're requesting 77 million. But again, a reminder, the state said you're only going to get 20.
So again, I'm sorry, you had me turning pages and listening. It sounded like there was a lot less than the number that we're asking for. You said 75.
Yes.
And then we're going to get 20.
Yes. So we're asking 77. And that's historically what we've gotten between BTL and state funding over the last couple of years. And the state has told us with the initial handout that we got from them that says 20 million. So
Okay. No problem. I just think we should talk about that a lot more. But okay, all right. I do see the slide now. I didn't see it earlier. So thank you. Thank you much.
Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Thank you, as always. One quick clarifying question. I had brought up in the board meeting where you presented this to us, the amount of maintenance, of the maintenance backlog. Just to clarify, when we decide on a systemic upgrade, does that cut into the maintenance backlog?
yeah, so both the $66 million of recurring projects minus the vehicles
Right.
and some of the school furniture all affect addressing the backlog. In addition, when we replace a building, that helps address the backlog for that existing portion of the building that we're taking offline. It doesn't help us when we build a brand new building, right? That just adds to the cost 10, 20, 30 years down the road when we have to do those renewals.
So the large number of maintenance backlog that we have includes all those considerations is
Yep.
just what I want to, and so we're just sort of trying to put the 8 million at least towards some of what's left.
Yeah,
right?
the $8 million category for maintenance backlog is really just our funding source for locally funded programs. But
Got
we
it.
use a lot of the funding buckets to address it.
And, you know, with regard to this change that the state has made to no longer fund based on enrollment, is there some background about how that came about, when it came about, what we know?
It has, it's up to the purview of the IAC to determine. Past practice was basing it on enrollment. So we typically represented between 9 and 10% of the state's enrollment. That would be proportionally allocated to the counties based on that proportion. Now there's a little bit more emphasis on critical needs at certain counties that may have not kept up with their maintenance best practices over the course of the years. You can see in the one slide in particular that Montgomery County is getting hit pretty hard, and then we're right behind them at second. So with a $400 million capital program that the state runs, we anticipate getting closer to that $40 million mark.
Whenever you look at any system, the incentive structure built into it is always interesting. And the incentive structure here would seem to be don't do your maintenance. And I'm not sure that's a good long-term strategy for any organization. But anyway, all right, well, thank you for that, and thank you as always for the presentation. Much appreciated.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier about the potential need for some new streams of revenue. Any ideas of what that would look like?
So we have been very successful with pursuing funding with outside agencies. So MEA, you guys just approved a supplemental capital budget where we got a substantial amount of money for that. Over the last couple of years, we've also been able to go and get IRS direct funding for our geothermal projects. We anticipate another large check, hopefully, by the end of the year that we can present another supplemental budget to you all for that. We also get funding from state security, Maryland Center for School Safety. We use that largely to fund vestibule projects, and we're closing those out. We anticipate another supplemental coming to you all in December with around $800,000 for that. So my team behind me are very creative and looking for different alternative funding sources and how we can be good stewards of AACPS.
Thank you so much. And so we recently celebrated the ribbon cutting of Meade High School, which was at $124 million funded by the Department of Defense. Any likelihood that some additional funding from the Department of Defense could come our way?
We continue to engage with the Department of Defense, putting high emphasis on the middle school projects on the base. But I think the next assessment is going to happen in a few years, and that will allow us to kind of recalibrate where we sit on priority list.
Right. So I also had the same question Ms. Schalheim had about the current Ruth Easton site, and that was a good answer. We've over the past 10 years or so, we've spent $30.6 million or invested in major repairs to Glen Burnie High School. And their feasibility study for Glen Burnie has been awarded fiscal year 26.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I have to say that's in the back of my mind, Ms. Pulliam, Southern High School. Southern High School is one of the, two schools that only has one gym. So it makes me wonder if there's what the potential is for a second gym for Southern. I don't think you're upset that I asked that, Ms. Pulliam.
Southern and South River. Thank
And
you.
South River also. South River. And by the way, North County was built with the same plans Lindale was that they used to build Southern Senior High School. And so the old gym at North County is just like the old gym at Southern. So maybe the new gym at Southern could be like the new gym at North County. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box here.
Appreciate it.
Final question would be, we've invested a tremendous amount of money in the old mill plan. So you think there are any issues with the funding that's going to be needed to complete that plan over the next years?
So the last bit of funding is for Old Mill Middle School North.
Right.
We successfully, we successfully got a portion of that funding last week. So the IAC approved BTL funding for that project, and the remaining balance of $6 million is being requested from the IAC.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have. So any of my colleagues have any additional questions? I'll go by lights. Ms. Pulliam.
Hello, thank you. Thank you again for the report. So forgive me, but I started looking at the other slides that you provided in the back. Are we not allowed to talk about them? I see the smile. Okay. So what I see, and I'm guessing, so the Glen Burnie, the facility assessment, the 4 schools that have the lowest rating, South River, Arundel High School, Southern High School, Chesapeake. Then I looked at the building ages Southern High School, South River, or Southern is the oldest, and then South River is the second oldest. And then I looked at your BOE project and planning, and you had Arundel, Chesapeake, Bodkin, Central, and Maryland City listed for feasibility. I think I know the answer, but the question I have is with the information, with the assessments and the age, and then your BOE project and program planning, there wasn't a ranking there as there was for the Glen Burnie High School in terms of the facility assessment. Is the goal to do the feasibility study for each one of these schools and then determine based on the feasibility study which one would go next? I'm just trying to understand because I know that dollars are limited. I'm just,
Yeah,
and
so-
this is the chart, the BOE project and program planning recurring. Do you have that? I think it's like in the, I don't know, I've taken them all. 32. Oh, you might not have it. Okay, there it is. So how, what are you thinking there? Is it the feasibility study for all of them, or are you gonna?
So this is an immediate need. So these are immediate needs that are coming up in the next couple of years in the 6-year plan. So if you look at the second page of the CIP as a 6-year plan, it's important to note that Central Complex includes South River, right? Southern is being addressed this year with our scope study that we're looking at for that systemic renovation project. Arundel Middle School also shows up on the 6-year plan. Chesapeake Bay, Bodkin are also on the 6-year plan to review those. Again, they have the same options when we do feasibility studies where we look at do nothing, paint patch, renovation, replacement, renovation with an addition. Those things are all reviewed when we do that. This prior to this program being established or being available to AACPS, we literally had to wait fiscal year constraints before we could even start this. This allows us to say, all right, we anticipate design funding coming July, but that doesn't prevent us from getting an early start on feasibility.
Thank you. You had mentioned that prior, but I just want to make sure others were aware. And in the Central Complex, when you say that, that's really the Central Elementary School, Cat South, Central Special, and South River. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's Cat South, Central Elementary, Central Special, Central Middle, South River High School, all on one campus.
Okay. There's some people that were confused, and so I just want to make sure they're aware of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, one last thing, Dr. Bedell, I guess that means we have to start with large philanthropic gifts, right? Did you want to name our first gym, our second gym, the Bedell Gym in
Well,
Southern High School?
I don't have any legacy. You got some athletes over there that do, or some
Right.
folks who graduated from that STEM program. We might want to name it after. I'm just, yeah.
We'll work on that later. I'm just,
right.
it goes back to your point of philanthropic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's money out there. I know they've been talking about what we've been able to get so far, but we do recognize that there is a need and there is an inequity when you look at every other high school.
Okay, Dr. Tobin.
Yeah, this conversation just made me think, and I know the answer to this, I think, but it's somewhat outside the purview of this, but I know a lot of good work is being done to expand the reach of our foundation. And so I am hopeful that that is one mechanism we have for good partnership with the philanthropic community and businesses and so forth to support some of this work.
You're absolutely right. I think there'll be some big announcements coming soon. That's all I can say.
Okay, I'm seeing no more lights. Dr. Bedell, we'd like to thank you and certainly Dr. Heiser, Mr. Roof, and the entire staff. Thank you for another great presentation. So that does conclude this workshop this evening. Have a great night.